Okay, finally, the last lesson of circles. So we talked in the previous lesson about circumference, which again is if you're going to walk around the outside of a circle, how far would you walk? Now, if you wanted to cover a circle with something, now we're talking about area. So we're going to have the same kind of idea where we're going to be dealing with the area formula, which again, on the back of your formula sheet, that is there. There's circumference, area is right below it. Looks very similar to circumference, but it's pi r squared. We know that this is not the same thing as 2 times pi times r, right? This is r squared. That's a little bit different. And again, what this is going to find is going to be if I were to fully cover a circle, how much area I have to cover. Now, in the same way that we dealt with arc length, which was a portion of the circumference, just like a little piece of the circumference, we're going to be dealing also with what's called a sector. A sector is a pizza slice. Though in the same way that you can have a minor arc and a major arc, you can have a minor sector, a normal looking pizza slice, or you could have a major sector, the rest of the pizza. Yeah, so that kind of idea applies as well. Now the formula is very similar. We're going to come to it on the formula sheet and when we get to it in the problems. Because again, what the formula is finding the portion of the area that you have. So the area formula is there, and then there's your fraction, the fraction of the area that you have. So let's go ahead and look at example 1. We're kind of going to crank these out. It says find the area. Pay very close attention, guys, when you guys are doing the test, because in area formula, go ahead and take a second, look back, look at your formula sheet, copy down the area formula. We have pi, which we know is 3.14, times r squared. Now, they could give you that exact same picture and instead ask for the circumference. So just pay attention, right? The formulas look very similar. They both use radius. So we are finding the area of circle P. So this right here is my radius because the radius is always halfway through the circle. So all we got to do is plug in. It's super easy. I'm plugging into r because that is r. And we know that for pi, we are again plugging in what? 3.14 because that's the way Canvas wants us to do that. R is, again, 8 in this case, squared. Careful not to forget the square, because after that, all you got to do is plug it into the calculator. So take a second, plug that in the calculator. Okay, so we should have gotten 200.96. Now, again, this is rounding it to the nearest tenth here. So this 96, that actually would round all the way up to 201. That 96 would cause the 200 to go up 1. Now, again, it being Canvas, you're not going to have to type units. But remember, area, because we are squaring radius, is inches squared. Circumference would just be inches, but area is inches squared. And that's it for area. Let's go ahead and try number 3. So take a second, skip to number 3. We're going to skip number 2 because number 2 is the exact same thing. It says find the area of a circle. So immediately it goes blah, 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 area of a circle. You should immediately write down the formula for area of a circle. Take a second to do so. Area equals pi r squared. That's pi times r squared. Now, again, this is the formula. We just have to read a little bit carefully because do we have the radius? We do not. What we have instead is the diameter. So you need to remember then what this means for the radius. It's so important that we know what a diameter looks like. Again, you can look at your formula sheet. It does tell you how the radius and the diameter are related right there, yeah? I've got my diameter here, radius here. So if my diameter is 18, what does that make my radius? Well, it's going to be half of that because, again, looking at the picture, diameter is all the way through the circle. Radius is halfway through the circle. So I'm going to divide by 2. So this should be 9. So take a second, plug that in. That's area equals. Area equals. I'm going to use 9 instead for the radius. Go ahead and do that. Well, pi is 3.14. My radius is 9, but don't forget to square it. You cannot use the diameter. You will not get the right answer. It's always radius. 3.14 times 9 squared. We get 254.34. And again, let's go ahead and round that off how Canvas would like us to. 254.3. feet we're talking about here, feet squared. That's how much area I would need to cover for that circle. If I had a circular room or I wanted to make a circular rug, that's how much carpet I would need to buy. Okay, so again, the area formula itself is not very complicated. Just be careful that you have to use the radius, not the diameter. Let's go ahead and look at number 4. So now it says find the area of the sector. Again, how to use your formula sheet. If it goes blah, 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 name of a formula, I'd go, oh, where is that formula? Area of a sector. So area of a sector is right there on the formula sheet. We're going to go ahead and copy that. So area of a sector equals, again, unsurprising that the first thing you should see is pi r squared because this is the full area of the circle. But we're going to multiply this by, it says degrees in corresponding arc. I'm going to go ahead and just say degrees in arc because I don't have a lot of space there. Divide by 360. And again, this should make sense. This fraction tells us how much of a circle we're looking at, what fraction of a circle we're looking at, out of the entire area, which is why we're multiplying by the area formula. So all we got to do is kind of be careful about here. I want the shaded region. When they say find the area of the sector, I think in Canvas they'll say shaded region. So if I want to find this area, the degrees in the arc need to be these degrees. This is the arc for the shaded region I want. I have to use 80 there. If I want a different shaded region, I could not use the 80. The 80 only finds this shaded region. So let's go ahead and plug in though. We got pi is again 3.14. What is the radius in the picture? That's the 4 feet. Radius is always center to edge of the circle. Careful not to forget to square it, otherwise you'll get the wrong answer. Multiplied by. The degrees in the arc that I'm talking about of my pizza slice is 80 out of 360. So take a second, make sure you can plug this whole thing in the calculator. This is going to give us how much area we have of just this little pizza slice. Okay, so we should get an area of just this little sector of 11.16. As always, let's go ahead and round that. 1/6, that should round to 20. And so we can say here, feet squared. Still area. So that's how much area I have of just that little slice. As always, being careful that if it's the radius, it goes in for R. If it's the area, it goes in for A. It's not a choice. Don't forget there are 2 sides to this formula. Let's go ahead and try the next. Skip to number 7. So on number 7, it says, once again, blah, 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 area of a sector. Take a second, write down the area of a sector formula we just did. Okay, so again, if I'm seeing blah, 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 area of a sector, that's how we know what formula to use. We go, oh, let me look at my formula sheet that Miss Holberg so lovingly made for me, and find that formula. Now, again, we have to be careful. The area that I want needs to go with the degrees that I have. It says find the area of the sector, and again, what they mean is the shaded region. We've done something like this before. I've got the radius, and I've got what this equals. This is 60. We practiced this already. If this is 60, this is 60. Center is the same. But I want the area of the shaded region. So take for a second, what degrees am I going to have to use here if I want the shaded region? We've done this a lot.
Attention teachers, there will be a coaches meeting in the media center at 7:15. A coaches meeting in the media center at 7:15.
So take a second. Again, what is going to be all the rest of this, of the shaded region that I want? Well, if I've got 60 here so far, if I do 360 minus 60, that means the degrees I actually want is 300. So now we can plug in. We got pi is 3.14. We got R is still this 3 inches right here. The degrees, again, of the area that I want is 300 out of 360. Take a second, go ahead, plug all that in. This is going to find us the area of the sector. Okay, we should be getting 23.55. As always, 23.6. We'll round that to inches squared. Okay, so again, reminders. We're going to do one more problem. Reminders as you are doing this formula and any formula. The degrees in the arc needs to go with the area that you wanted. That's why we had to use the 300 instead of the 60. And then again, if it's degrees, it goes in degrees. If it's radius, it goes with R. If it's the area given to you, it goes in A. So you're going to try one more. You're going to skip to number 9. You can go ahead again, skip to number 9. We're actually going to go ahead and just find the radius. We will find the radius of circle G. Now, what we are told here is this shaded area has an area of 277 meters squared. So this is talking about the area of just this region, which again is still area of a sector. So I'm going to write out that formula. We're not dealing with the full area of a circle. We're dealing with the area of just a chunk of it. So that's area of a sector. So again, we've been practicing this. There's 3 places I can put things. I can put something in A, in R, and in degrees. Look at what we have. We've got 72, and we've got this. They go where they're supposed to go. It's not a choice. Whatever I don't have, I got 3 spots. One of them I'm not going to know. Take a second and plug in. Where does the 72 go? Ooh, pause. Ooh, pause. Making this tricky. 72 doesn't go anywhere because that 72 goes with this area, and we're dealing with this area. So take 1 second. What is going to be the degrees for this area that I'm dealing with here? Well, again, if this is 72, 360 minus 72 will give us the area that we're talking about. So 360 minus 72 should have gotten 288 for this. Okay, so again, you've got 2 numbers. You've got 288, you got 277. Where are they going to go in this formula? It is not a choice. If it says area equals, you don't get to plug that into radius just because you want to. The area is 277. We know that by now. We've been doing this a lot. It's not a choice. We don't know the radius. It says find the radius. So it just stays put. R squared. Yeah. And 288 is my degrees. I'm not making choices. I'm just seeing where does the stuff need to go. It's just a little bit of thinking. So we got to be careful with how we're going to solve this. We need to move everything away from the R. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. I've got 3.14 and this that I can multiply together. So go ahead and calculate. Let's do that. 3.14 times 288 divided by 360. Okay, I'm going to drop this down. Sorry for all the color changes. So all of this together, I'm multiplying. Again, because that's all multiplication going on. I got 2.512. I'm going to go ahead and leave that fully, just like that. Because it's only 3 digits, so we'll leave it. R squared. I want you to take a second from here and see if you remember how to finish solving this. Again, I know it's 2.512, but that doesn't matter. If it were just 2R squared, you would solve it the same way. So go ahead and try to finish solving this. Okay, you should be dividing by 2.512. Yes, we do have a square that we need to get rid of eventually. So I have 277 divided by 2.512. But I cannot get rid of that square until the very end. It has to be the last step. So I am going to square root both sides. Let's shift square root. And we get 26 point, this is 37, so it should round to 4. Okay, you will have a question like that on the test. So I know, again, guys, that one's a little tricky. You really have to think, what's the information I have? Where does it go in the formula? Keeping in mind that, again, it can go in for A. If I know A, I can fill it in. Okay, from here, you're going to go ahead and do the 9.7 assignment. Cut just a couple problems just like this, and then we are wrapped up with this